Last Friday, the decision was handed down that Prince Harry had lost his appeal against RAVEC's decision and the process used to pull his security back in 2020. After that decision was made public, Prince Harry sat down for a 30-minute interview with the BBC. After watching the interview twice, here are some of my main takeaways. First, let's talk about the royal household's involvement and the answer that Prince Harry gave twice to the question of if he ever asked his father, King Charles, to intervene with security decisions.
I've never asked him to intervene. I've asked him to step out of the way and let the experts do their job. This RAVEC committee is an expert committee full of professionals, plus the royal household. Every single visit that I do back to the UK has to go through the royal household. My representative on the RAVEC committee, still to this day, is the royal household.
He's not a working royal, but his representative is still the royal household. He also goes into the fact that his visits are very much tied to why he is going to the UK and if his family has invited him.
It's not really a case-by-case basis. It's an either-or. If you're invited to the UK by your family, then we will give you security. If you come for any other reason, then you will get a very low amount of security, and it is completely insufficient.
I highly doubt that the people that would do harm to Prince Harry care if he's there for official royal purposes or not. It gives more context as to why Prince Harry would rush out of the UK anytime that he's been there. Before someone says he's rich, he can hire his own security. Yes, he can have private security. We're talking about armed police security in the UK, which he has had his entire life because he was born into this. His security has been tied to if he has an official role with the royal family. And as he points out, there are people who decide to go into public office and then leave and still get lifetime protection. So even if you were just using the framework of public officials, he still isn't getting adequate security, and his threat level is extremely high. Which leads to the crux of his issue, and that is the process that was undertaken when RAVEC made the decision to pull his security in February of 2020. Remember, in the Sandringham Summit, Harry told us that they worked out this basic agreement that included a 12-month transitional period that would include security. That was pulled in February of 2020. And we learn a little bit more about the process that was undertaken during that time and the call of the then chair of RAVEC to do an R&B assessment, a risk management assessment. Risk assessment is a standard procedure. It happens at least once a year. Here's what Harry said happened in 2020.
Sir Richard Mottram emailed back in January of 2020 that an R&B would be necessary before taking my security away. After his visit to the palace, that R&B that was planned was abandoned. So whether it's the media or whether it's anybody else that claims that the royal household and my father and my family don't have any decision-making capabilities on RAVEC, well then what's their role?
He also says that overnight he went from the royal with the highest threat against them, the person in second was the Queen, to the lowest, without an R&B assessment. I don't care what you think about Prince Harry, that's crazy. Forget about the person, this is a procedural issue. Which is why part of this interview, as well as his statement that he made on his website with Meghan, called for a review of RAVEC and the R&B assessment used to determine security level. He said he exhausted his efforts through the court. Finally, I want to talk about what Prince Harry has to say with the media and their role in adding confusion to security, specifically the cost for Meghan and Harry and their family.
Through this disclosure process, I've seen constituents in the UK write to their MP saying, I don't want to, as a taxpayer, I don't want to pay for Meghan and Harry's security at this cost. They're literally quoting headlines from British newspapers. Those figures are obviously grossly exaggerated by about 18, 19 times.
Disinformation matters and it's effective no matter where it comes from. So the idea that people just don't read the tabloids, not true. And while I'm not interested in debating who should be paying for Harry and Meghan's security, I will say this. Harry offered to pay for it himself, which I understand the idea that you can just pay for police protection is a problem, but this is a unique circumstance, as we've been told over and over again. And as he reiterates, they didn't want to leave working royal life. They just wanted to work out a solution where they could work on behalf of the Queen without having to deal with this insane British media ecosystem, the royal rota. Either way, Harry was born a royal. He's always going to be a royal. Harry says in this interview that security was used, weaponized really, to try and control him. It was one of the many ways they tried to force him and Meghan back to the UK. I think one of the reasons that Harry is taking this time to make these statements and call for a review of RAVEC and the RMB process is because there are also future royals to think about in regards to this decision. Let's be clear, it sends a very strong message to anyone who is thinking about leaving royal working life, the consequences of that decision and what kind of support they can expect.